Hello, everyone. I'm Jess, coming to drop a little sunshine on you. For everyone who's in the house on lockdown, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to all of you. But before I get into the topic, I want to thank you guys for listening. We're still getting emails from people who are asking, are we still planning to go to Brazil? And the answer is yes, we are still planning to go to Brazil. Everything as of right now is still on hold, but Brazil is still on the calendar for November 2020. It's also on the calendar for February 2021. We still have a trip to South Africa that's coming. And unless we get word that we can't go, of which we would naturally listen to what we're allowed to do versus we're not allowed to do, these trips are still on. As it stands right now, our schedule is still the same. So for those of you who are interested in going to South Africa, that trip is for June. For those of you who are still interested in going to Brazil, that trip is November. It's also February of 2021 for Carnival in Brazil. So these things are still happening until further notice. For obvious reasons, we're not necessarily promoting these trips because we're all waiting to see what's going to happen. And I have to tell you, I know some of you out there are getting a little bit of cabin fever because folks are still wanting to know, when can we go? When can we go? But we are adamant about doing what we need to do at this point in time and practicing social distancing and making sure that folks are safe and making sure that we listen to the precautions that are being advised by the government. A lot of this stuff is touch and go. A lot of this stuff is wait and see. And so we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. So on to today's topic. Today's topic is putting things off. When we were actively talking about the trips we had coming up, we would always get calls or emails from people who would ask for trip details. Now, between our team, people usually connect with me. Sometimes they may get Ashley or Karina or maybe one of our other folks who helps out from time to time. But for the most part, people get me. Now, I just love and enjoy these conversations because many of you, when you call and we speak, you're so excited. And speaking to you gets me all excited about the whole experience because your questions prompt me to really think and articulate why I love the experiences we provide. What I feel like most people don't know about the experiences we offer is that these are places that I've visited multiple times for many years. So I wouldn't continue to go to these amazing, beautiful places if I didn't absolutely love the experiences. And one thing that has become clear to me after having spoken to so many travelers over the years is that a lot of people put things off. When it comes to travel, it always amazes me that there are people who are a part of our community who still don't have a passport. So for those of you who have had that I will wait until next year kind of attitude when it comes to travel and renewing your passports and even getting a passport, now we're in a situation where here in the United States, you can't even get a passport unless you have traveled within 72 hours and it's an extreme emergency. Now you can still apply for a passport and you can still submit your passport renewal application. But due to the pandemic, a lot of these applications are just going to pile up. And so when you will get your passport is really unknown. Normally, the passport office will have an estimated time frame from the time you submit your application until the time you receive it. They'll have a general window in terms of when you can expect to receive your passport back. None of that right now. And the State Department issued this notification towards the end of last month, beginning of this month. So for those of you who have not renewed your passport, or if you don't have a passport and you want to get one, now is really the time to apply, because we don't know at what point they're going to start processing and issuing those passports. So largely, most of these passports will be processed according to the order in which they received. And so if you need a passport or if you need to renew, now is technically a good time to get that done. Do not put it off. Although, like I said, they can't tell you when you're gonna get one. But beyond travel, this is how many of you approach life. And please don't take this the wrong way, because we all do it. We all put things off. Some reasons are very legit. For example, some of us have experienced a sudden decline in a family member's health, or some of you may have experienced a decline in your own personal health. You know, people have deaths in the family all the time. And that's a very big thing, because if you lose someone, that can create a void that can impact the whole family for a while. And so we put things off because of reasons like that. We also put things off because, you know, people lose their jobs, finances change. All of these are very legitimate reasons to put things off. When it comes to putting things off for financial reasons, it kind of depends on what exactly you're putting off, because not all the time can a financial reason be valid for you to continue putting things off. Sometimes financial situations can and will and should push you to get serious and stop putting things off. However, the vast majority of us put things off because of fear. And sometimes we don't even recognize our own signs of fear. Fear can be demonstrated in many different ways. And I feel it's important to speak about fear at this moment for obvious reasons. I tell people all the time that fear is typically demonstrated through excuses, annoyance, avoidance, and anger. I'm going to say that again. Excuses, annoyance, avoidance, and anger. Let me go a bit deeper with that. Have you ever met someone who has a lot of excuses as to why they haven't done what they said they were going to do? Or perhaps you yourself have given a lot of excuses for why you haven't done what you said you were going to do. I know I fall into that category. I can take full ownership and responsibility, but that's a classic sign of fear. And it comes from you don't want to follow through with finishing something, because part of you is really afraid that once it's done, what if it's not as successful as you thought it would be? See, so long as you don't take action, you can fantasize and dream about the way you feel it's going to happen, the way you want things to unfold. But the minute you actually follow through and complete what it is you said was what you wanted to get accomplished, then you oftentimes find that can be the very beginning of the process. And it's going to take more work to bring things into fruition. And there's that fear of, what if it's not as successful as I want it to be? What if it takes longer for me to achieve what it is I set out to achieve? And so we come up with excuses. Well, I haven't done it because I haven't had time. I'm busy with the kids. I have all this work I have to do on the job. I haven't had enough rest. I mean, we can really come up with some very creative excuses to convince ourselves of why it's okay and why it's justifiable to put things off. Annoyance. We all know people who may commit to something, but when you follow up with them about it, it's like they have an attitude or they're annoyed with you for even asking. And so phrases like, I already told you this is what I was going to do. Or, didn't you hear me say that I was going to do that? It's almost like they have an attitude. Annoyance is really a demonstration of people being fearful of being called out, fearful of being exposed, fearful for not following through. And so annoyance is a way that a lot of people demonstrate that they've actually put things off. The other one is avoidance. Some people just disappear. You know, you have people who commit to doing certain things and then they're nowhere to be found. So I have this friend, and she told me how one weekend she planned a road trip. And in order for her to carry out the road trip the way she had intended to carry it out, she recruited one of her close friends who agreed to help her out with the road trip. And she told me the morning of the road trip, she called her friend and her friend was nowhere to be found. And she kind of left my friend out there by herself to figure things out. And she was very stressed out. She had way too much on her in terms of what she was responsible for. And rather than her friend being honest with her, her friend just disappeared and completely avoided her. When people begin to avoid you, a lot of times that's a fear of having to be honest with you. It's a fear of not wanting to fess up that they changed their mind. And so rather than just telling you, hey, I changed my mind about this, they will just disappear and avoid you and avoid the conversation that hold them accountable to their actions. So avoidance is another demonstration of fear. Anger. This is one of my favorites. So anger is another really obvious sign of fear, and it does actually lead to people putting things off. Picking arguments and fights to try to establish some distance demonstrates fear, because oftentimes people are fearful that you're going to discover the truth about something that they told you that was completely opposite. And so anger and picking arguments is really a sign of deflection. And when people deflect, it's often a fear of the truth coming out. All of these are very real characteristics that people often demonstrate as a way of putting things off. And so those are the fear-based reasons, but then there's a whole host of other reasons, like people put things off because people have a habit of overcommitting themselves financially. The one thing I can say about travel is That is one thing you do not want to overcommit yourself to. And this is why typically for us, we only allow travelers to register for one trip at a time, because we don't want you to overcommit yourself financially. Once people discover that they've overcommitted themselves financially, they will put other things off that may be more of a priority. And the last reason that I feel in my years of experience is the number one reason why people put things off is relationships. Over the course of the years, I've talked to so many men who've said, "Oh, Brazil is on my bucket list. I really want to go." And then when I said, "Well, why don't you just make it happen?" "I can't, my girl," or my wife's never going to allow that, you know? Or the ladies will say, "I really want to go, but let me check with my boyfriend because I want to come with my boyfriend, or I want to come with my husband." And for one reason or another, their husband or their wife will talk them out of it. This is a very important topic because we're at a stage in our society, in our economy, where you can no longer put things off. If there's something you really want to do, be it travel, be it a business you want to start, now is the time to pull yourself together, figure out something to focus on, and take the first step towards making what it is that you have set out for yourself happen. We have to get out of the habit of putting things off. There's so much stuff that I have that I'm working on when it comes to Black Travelers Network, because I too struggle with the very same thing. I have so much stuff that I have planned and I'm really excited. I wish I could tell you everything, but I can't. We have a number of things that we're working on. I just want to thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned, more exciting topics to come, and don't forget to subscribe.